Welcome back, everybody, for joining us for this Nessa and Whitney's conversation on the topics of our industry. Tonight, we're going to be discussing remove versus restore, which is, I think, a topic that is maybe overlooked too much, maybe not talked about, but I think both of us think that it should be discussed more often. So we wanted to start off here and see if we could get people discussing the topic more so throughout the industry on a daily basis so that you can try to save some more stuff. But yeah, getting into it, getting into remove versus restore. One of the ways that I look at it, but I kind of look at it as handyman versus contractor. The handyman will go out and do whatever for a buck. Doesn't have to worry about regulations, licensing, any of that stuff. He's just the guy that may be the jack of all trades. He goes out there and does it, versus the contractor who has to go through everything that he has to go through in order to get his licensing, pulls permits, so on and so forth, has to follow a set of standards similar to us in our industry. And eventually, they do their work the way that they have to do it. And I look at it the same way, considering the fact that we as restorers or we as restoration contractors are given a lot of the information or a lot of the access to information through the RIA as well as the IICRC in order to make sure that we better ourselves as restoration contractors and we know exactly what to do, whether it be a CR program, a WLS program, whether it be an ASD program, a microbial remediation class, a contents class from a fire line company, or a contents class from yourself. It doesn't matter where you go at the end of the day. Obviously, there are better schools than others, and
Right.
if you can do the research and have access to your peers and people who've been through these programs and these classes to figure out who the best instructors are, then by all means try to get that done and take the classes from the best of the best in the industry. I mean, why would you not want to take the classes from those individuals who have physically done this stuff on a daily basis in order to get themselves to the point they are in their career, versus
And
a
I
lot
think,
of
I think,
next
I,
week.
mhm,
Go ahead.
mhm. No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say on that note, and I think it's really important that, the education is huge. And I think it's, again, I'm not slamming contractors here, but I do think that it sets us apart from contractors versus restorers, because it does take skill and it takes knowledge. And sometimes in the situations, it takes specialty, oftentimes skill and knowledge, to be able to not just rip out sheetrock or log destroyed someone's bedroom furniture. It takes special skill to be able to restore it. And that's where I believe in this industry that we serve our clients in the biggest way, because to restore for them means less stress, less headache, less all kinds of things for them, right? I mean, think about it. If I think this is a huge topic, not just for structure, but for contents, Whitney, because it's real easy to walk in and just go, okay, yeah, this whole kitchen is destroyed, and log everything. But think about the homeowner that has to buy everything again. Sure, they have an insurance policy that's going to replace these items, hopefully, if they have a good policy. That's another topic. But, they got to go out and buy all these things again. Can you imagine, Whitney, right now, if everything in your kitchen was completely destroyed, you didn't have it, and you had to go out to, Fred Meyer, Target, wherever, and buy all of your kitchen contents again? I mean, what a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the nose. Essentially,
Mhm.
it's not just building materials, it's contents. I mean, contents plays a huge
Yep.
part into things that can be restored. I think that there's a larger list, obviously, there's a larger list of contents that can be
Mhm.
restored versus building materials, considering the fact
Yes.
that a lot of building materials that we're removing it isn't necessarily because of the fact that they can't be saved. It might be because of what's behind it, or
Right.
is there a barrier space, or is there interstitial
Right.
spaces that need to be opened up, so on and so
Right.
forth. So there
Right.
are reasons to remove certain materials, but the way I look at it is, rather than removing 2 feet in an entire apartment,
Mhm.
why not just do the exterior walls or the walls that are insulated? You
Right.
know, you can
Right.
save the interior walls. I'm a huge proponent for removing baseboards on every single loss. I'm a huge
Mhm.
proponent for that. And I
Right.
am going to always push that. And it's not about the fact that you cannot save it, because we all know that we're trained in our classes to be able to dry materials in place. And the science is there to back it up, as long as you don't have, too many different vapor barriers, and however it may be that the vapor barrier is. And if it's
Mhm.
paint, different types of paint, different layers, how many layers of paint, Is it lead paint? You know, lead paints definitely don't let too much
Right.
moisture through. Certain things like that that really affect the drying conditions within a house, but more so it's a liability. So for instance, always remove those things. It's an easy fix. It's cheap. If you make a little mark on the wall, buy an inch larger baseboard and it covers it up. I mean, it's really easy, and literally it's
Right.
15 cents a linear foot. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
change. Um,
Right.
you know, too often people are removing materials that can and should be attempted to be saved, whether it be drywall on walls that have no insulation behind them, whether it be wood flooring that was properly installed and, you know, has a subfloor underneath it that's not affected, and the conditions are right for you to be able to apply, you know, hardwood floor drying techniques.
Right.
um, these are all sciences and technologies that are available to us, you know, on the building materials side. On the
Mm-hmm.
content side, it goes so much farther, from documents to furniture to art to historical
Mm-hmm.
documentation or historical relics that are not documents. Uh,
Right.
Dealing with museums, dealing with those kind of places. I mean, there's so much stuff. And, you know, one of the points that I wanted to bring up was that the more we are able to restore, the more money that we're able to bill, and the more money
Yep.
we're ultimately able to make as restorers. And not only that, but this kind of gets me through a whole bunch of my points. It adds so much value to the service that we provide to our customers.
Yes.
You know, for
Yes.
me, I do construction and the rebuild services not because of the fact that the margins are great, because they're not.
They're not.
They're not. I do it as a value add to my
Right.
clients, because I don't think that going through these bad times and bad experiences on a residential or commercial side, that going between multiple different people of interest, persons of interest, if you will, for them, just like we have material interested parties on our part, it's just as hard for them to control these different outlying
Right.
of, you know, costs. So by having one contractor that can handle all these things is all the better. And this is why
Mm-hmm.
it's so important for people to understand, you know, from your perspective. And this is why I can't wait to come to the class on the West Coast. Um, Simply because of the fact that it's going to allow me to have a much better grasp. And not only that, but hopefully I can get you to help me design my contents room so that it's not just me coming up with, hey man, this is going to look sexy, this is going to look cool, but it's, hey man, this is an effective
Right.
facility that there is in the Southeast region, if not South Florida, when it comes to
Right.
contents cleaning. And I hope to be able to do that with you. So these are the things that we're trying to do as value adds. I hope that other people in the industry will add these things on. And it's not necessarily diversifying. I call it interdiversification. I think I called it, and I named it the other day. It's not spreading out. Don't go buy a gas station. Don't go, you know, buy a tree farm and then, you know, a hotel or some shit just because you have a couple bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Use the assets you have, use the knowledge that you have, and figure out how you can essentially not necessarily squeeze more out of the sponge, but
Mm-hmm.
get your assets moving more. You know, I'm looking
Mm-hmm.
at how I can get things going at night. That's my next thing. The next 10 years is how I can capitalize on the time when I'm sleeping. That's for me.
Exactly.
You know, the days are figured out, kind of. We
Mm-hmm.
could always do better, but the nights, we're
Mm-hmm.
not making any money. Every once in a while, we'll pick up a night job, but you know how that is. So
Yes.
it's huge. You know, I think that contents is a huge topic, and I think you definitely have a lot more to say on the content side of this.
Well, and I think it really, Whitney, it's what sets us apart, right? Like as restorers or restoration contractors, it's what sets us apart and gives us the leg up to the conversation with our clients about why do they not just call a contractor or, someone who does rebuild? Well, because they're not a restorer. So whether you're dealing with the structure or the contents, again, the more that we can restore for our customers, you're right, it is a greater service to them in so many ways, but it is going to give them a lot less stress and headache, which again, is that not why we're here? To provide a service that's different than what someone else can do. And it's real easy to look at, a bedroom set of wood furniture that is black with smoke and soot and stinks like crazy and go, yeah, we just need to bill the insurance company 5 grand for this bedroom set and they need to get a new one. That, in my opinion, is the easy way out for the contractor. It's not the smart way out because, as you said, especially when it comes to contents, we don't get paid as much when it's destroyed. Obviously, we get paid a little bit if we do the logging destroyed and hauling it away, but we really make our money on the cleaning and the restoration part. And we also aren't doing a service to our client if we're just willing to get rid of all the stuff and then we make the job, if you will, on them. Because like I said, they got to go out and find the new furniture, find the new things. And, the whole topic of, a museum or a lawyer's office, there's some of those things you don't just go out and buy again. So restoring is really, it's a huge service to save an item that otherwise, when dealing with contents, otherwise it would be gone forever. And of course, I have a whole emotional side of the whole situation to me that I'm really passionate about. But it may not be a museum. Maybe it's the kindergarten hand clay print, or the footprint from when a infant was first born. How are you going to replace those items? You can't do that to just go out and get them. So the more knowledge that you have and the skill you have as a cleaning restorer, you're going to be able to, again, at the end of the day, we're in business to make money. So yes, you're going to make more money for sure, but you're also going to be providing a service that others cannot, like just a regular maid service, if you will, or a contractor who's going to rip out walls, that sort of thing. And I think that is a very huge factor in differentiating ourselves and setting ourselves apart. We like to call it in our marketing, it's being the red sports car in a parking lot full of blue sedans. You're going to stand out, right? That's a great analogy.
No, it is. You do have to stand out. And another big part of this, and it goes back to the interdiversification part that I talked about, and back to also the value for the clients, is there's twofold here. It's if you're restoring more of a customer's belongings as well as their house, it could be twofold. It could be their parents' house, their grandparents' house, the house that their family grew up in, was passed down generation to generation, which does exist still in this day and age. It's not just like here in South Florida where everyone buys a tract home and there's no history behind it. There's a lot of history behind a lot of these homes. So I've always had a huge passion for architectural and historical preservation, especially with jobs like that. So whenever I get an opportunity, especially when we were up in Cedar Rapids and we were doing the whole, you're pumping out basements that used to be the first floor of the buildings, that after the original flood in the 1800s, the original flood 100 years ago happened, they basically re-leveled the entire city and just closed out every first floor and redid the first floors and the second floors. And that's how Cedar Rapids is. Nobody knows the history of this, but being able to take walls down and open up these things and restore those. There's windows there from like 100 years ago underground that the floor is covered up, and there's still like like an open space in front of the window where they basically just covered it with a structure. And it's pretty incredible to see this kind of stuff. But also, not only is there a whole value add with that to your customers, because you're able to save not only their contents, but their building and the history behind some of the things that they own. You're able to keep people employed in slow times. How often is it that you have a Thursday or a Wednesday in the middle of the day or whatever, or you're just not slow and you want to use Saturday, Sundays and figure out how to work into your weekends and nighttime like I want to do? Well, contents is that way.
Yeah.
I'm not tired of it. I love helping people, but I am tired of not only going to people's houses. I want people to come to me and be able to do a service at my facility. So contents gives me the ability to bring things back to my shop and keep people working in my facility, because one of the biggest hassles with owning a company that's multifaceted, as well as just being in the field most of the time, is your guys are not there. When they're there and you have a little facility and a little factory, you're able to have a lot more controls over things, and it's really cool. There's another aspect of that to me that's very exciting, to say the least. Anyways, you're keeping your people employed. You're adding so much value onto your customer service, whether it be restoring their products, their property, or whether it be their historical value of their homes and the buildings that they live in. It's absolutely imperative that people go through and figure out these things, as far as ways to better yourself. And this is what it is to become a restorer. This is what Norp is all about. This is about
Mm-hmm.
stepping up the game of who you are, not necessarily just to monetize, but at the same time to make sure that the experience, the customer experience, the
Mm-hmm.
reputation that we gain
Yeah.
as restorers is kept. And I actually looked up the definition of restorer today because of the fact that we're talking about remove versus restore. And this can be demolition versus restoration. And the definition of restore is a person who a person who repairs or renovates a building, work of art, etc., so as to restore it to its original condition. Nowhere in there does it say to demolish or remove to its base structure. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't. So the definition of what we are down at the core is that we are individuals who are specialists in our field, just like you said. I hate to really compare ourselves to plastic surgeons, but at the end of the day, it's like that show Bob. If you've
uh,
ever seen that,
yeah.
you don't have to be a specialist just to be a specialist. Like, just because you are a plastic surgeon doesn't mean that you're a good plastic surgeon. Like, I watch that show all the time. Essentially what I see is there's very talented people and there's not very talented people. There's people who have a passion for what they do, and there's people who basically
Mm-hmm.
just want to see the green. They want to take the
Yeah.
money off the tree and go on to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
They're willing to do whatever cheap, do the quick, easy fix. And I can relate it to our industry because it's a specialty trade and you have
Mm-hmm.
people doing it in a number of ways. Not one person does a breast implant the same way. Not one person does a facelift the same way. Not one person does, whether it be cosmetic surgery or reparative surgery. They all do it by the book, but to a different standard. And then there's people who basically just don't do it that way at all. And you can tell who doesn't do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, most people care about their looks, so they're not going to go to those people unless they're
Right.
cheap, and they usually pay for it in the end.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's the same idea. You need to use a quality contractor so that they don't
Mm-hmm.
botch your job. Because when you botch your job, I mean, a lot of my work is doing repair jobs, unfortunately, for other
Yeah.
restoration contractors in my area.
Yeah.
And that stinks.
I can't tell you how many times I've been called in to fix or take over a content job from another company because it's just going sideways and it's a mess and the homeowners are upset. And it's definitely something that, and it upsets me a lot when that happens because obviously the people who, usually when I come in like that, I find things that are absolutely ridiculous and that are done completely out of standard. These people that are, ICRC certified and tout this or tout themselves as a certified firm and RIA members and this sort of thing. And I've had that happen, who go in and do a job like that. But it's definitely not everybody's the same, Whitney, that's for sure.
No.
I think that it's really important. We've all heard that you can specialize in like a certain thing. Like you could be a specialty document restorer, or you could specialize in restoring, hard to find hardwoods. Like when we went back to Maryland and did a bunch of the cat work, we don't, on the West Coast, we don't have the kind of amazing structures you guys have on the East Coast. Like that's where America started, right? So that's where the more older buildings are and the big, huge, hard woods. We don't have that so much out here. But these wood, the trims and the doors, these are just not things that you want to not restore. I mean, they're beautiful. And some of them have been in these homes for hundreds of years. I mean, to let that just get destroyed, it just absolutely.
Some of the things that I've seen people do to some of those
Oh,
amazing
I
things,
know.
ripping out pocket doors that were built by
Right?
I'd hang those
Oh,
pocket doors on my wall as art, and you're gonna
right.
just
Eh,
hit a
yeah,
sledgehammer.
you're just going to hit it with a sledgehammer. It's like, and so, you can specialize in something, but you can you don't have to just specialize in one or two things. When it comes to being a restorer, you can just be a specialty restorer and have a wide field of what you have expertise on. And I really do believe that. And it's not, like you said, it's not like, running out just because you have money and buying a gas station and a grocery store and a restaurant. Not that, like, you're still focused. You're a restorer, and really, a lot of the, I'm not sure how I want to say this. A lot of the knowledge and the skill that it takes to restore a hardwood floor is not unlike what you would maybe need, the knowledge and the skill you would need to restore a beautiful piece of hardwood furniture, right? I mean, I get one's contents and one's structure, but
Wood is
they
wood.
definitely right. They
They don't
overlap.
react the same way to moisture. It's just
Right, right.
how it's laid, how it's put together. Yeah,
Yes.
and the construction of things.
Yes.
I think talking on what you're touching on here, understanding the true value of the materials, not just the
Mhm.
contents, but the building materials, both contents
Yes.
and building materials. Knowing the value of the materials in which you're dealing with
Mhm.
is huge. Not
Yes.
just looking
Oh,
at
yeah.
door as a door, not looking at every window as
Yep.
a window, not looking at every
Yes.
floor as a floor. I mean, look at every material for what it is. And if you
Mhm.
really, you know, not everybody has a true passion for the construction and the history of construction and where we came from and all that other stuff. And I don't
Right.
expect everybody to have that passion. Some of us, it will draw us to some of these things a little bit more,
Yes.
but the training is available.
Mhm.
Utilize it and make yourself a better asset to
Mhm.
your customers. If you're a better
Mhm.
asset to your
Mhm.
customers, you will make more money. This isn't
Yes.
cheap, quick, click a button money. This is go out there, earn it, work it,
Mhm.
get it the right way money. And I think that that's the best way to get it. We've actually got a bunch of questions on Facebook too.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Well, that being said, really quick, I just want to say this. When you just said something really awesome, when you were talking about the knowledge and the training and the skill that we need to restore, it is huge and paramount that we do understand, though, Whitney, maybe not just the history. I get that. I mean, that makes me crazy. I love the history of all of it, right? But we need to understand the value of what we're handling, whether it's contents or structure. Like you said, a pocket door, a front door, you can spend $250 on a front door, or you can spend 5 grand. So you need to understand the value of the materials are dealing with, and especially on contents. Like, there's a big difference between, certain types of dishes, or between a Nordstrom shirt and a TJ Maxx shirt. Big difference. So you need to understand the value of the items, which is knowledge and training that you may not necessarily get within our industry, but maybe that falls on a little bit of due diligence, Whitney. Like, with the restorer, with the person that's in business, like, you should understand what the pricing and product and market is, whether it's contents or structure, for the items that you could be dealing with. I think that's an important point.
Yeah, it's very important to understand all the different aspects. And not only, I mean, we don't expect everybody to be a walking encyclopedia of value for all of our different things, but at this day and age, we're all walking around with a smartphone that has
Exactly.
more
Yes.
power than any computer that our
Yep.
parents and grandparents, especially because they didn't have any of it,
Mm-hmm.
were able to work with. So we have the assets
Mm-hmm. And if
literally,
you're not sure, then go look it up, right?
and we have groups like this, like Norp, where you get on there,
Yes.
you ask a question, and there's going to be 20 or 30 people that will most likely give you constructive criticism, and maybe one or two people that will give you a hard time. Don't worry about the one or two people that are going to give you the hard time. Worry about the 20 or 30 people that are giving you advice. At the end of the day, however many people I can help, hopefully, if there's 2,500 people in this group, if 10% of them, 250 people in this group are, well, I guess we had 2,700, so 270 people in this group are willing to take phone calls from individuals. That's 270 people who are willing to take a phone call for 5 or 10 minutes. I don't know the math on what 5 or 10 minutes gives with 270 people. I'm not going to do that off the top
A
of my head.
lot.
I have to be a genius, but that's a lot of free
Mhm.
time. I mean, I'm hearing about guys charging, $700-800 a month for their services to be
Mhm.
coaches and all this stuff lately, and it's
Mhm.
just like, it's
Yeah,
amazing.
there's a huge resource. NORP is a great resource for
Yeah, so
everyone. Hopefully they're
utilize
using it.
resources.
Mhm.
Joe is asking, how do you handle the insurance adjuster who is using and seeing companies gut and dry? I've had adjusters down here tell me just to remove flooring and drywall instead of taking 4 to 5 days needed of drying and restoring with bare minimum demolition. They don't want to pay for the proper mitigation. I don't quite get why adjusters push that, and I've definitely seen it, especially down here, where they're just like, take it out and dry it. You'll be in and out in a couple of days. I get that they want to keep the equipment rentals down, and I think part of it is that it's easier for them to push some things to their bosses as others. Hey, this materials are damaged and they need to be removed. Okay, just remove them and replace them, so on and so forth. Whereas the equipment here for 6, 7, 8 days, however many days it is to dry some wood floors or
Mhm.
some hardwood cabinets or some things like that, really kind of is a tough push for them. And most adjusters in the state of Florida, most independent adjusters in the state of Florida that are working for third party companies that aren't necessarily in-house adjusters are getting paid a percentage of the claims that are accepted and approved. So their paycheck's completely based off of what they get sent through the pipeline and gets processed. So if it doesn't get
Mhm.
processed and they get kickbacks on it, it takes them more time to get paid for the same money. So for them, it's easier to process some
Mhm.
things certain ways. So
Mhm.
I think that if we as an industry start pushing more of the restore versus remove and just stop bending over to the needs and the wants of the adjusters because, hey, it's easier for me to do my job. Why don't you just scratch my back? I think at that point, that's where you give them a little bit of pushback and say, hey, this is where you got to let me do my job in order to fix this properly and not
Mhm.
have to do 3 to 4 weeks of reconstruction, not have to do this, not have to do that. Give me the 4 or 5 days to be able to fix this house the way that I need to, or 6 or 7 days, whatever the case may be. I don't care if it's 14 days. Give me the 14 days that is necessary in order for me to restore this property to a pre-loss condition without removing a ton of materials. Because if I can do that, it saves you and I a ton of money and time. Because while I'm not having to sit here and spend the time doing the remodel and the build
Mhm.
back or the demo, I'm able to work on other customers and other clients. So it's a value add to both people. Obviously, it's a push, shove,
Mhm.
not necessarily a fight, but it's a little bit of one of those things where you got to give and take a little bit and explain your side to them. And I think more adjusters will come down and realize that if we stick to our guns, um, they'll accept what we're doing. They will.
Mhm.
They really will.
Whitney, on that note, I just want to answer to him. I think what would help us in this, because we face the same thing on the West Coast, and I think what will help us in this scenario is more and better adjuster continuing education that adjusters have to take
Oh yeah.
anyway, and to have better
Oh yeah.
education set up, right? To let them know. I mean, there's a couple things here that we can sell them on. One, look, they want to, one of the big deals that adjusters have is they want to get the claim closed, right? Like it's time, like get it done. And you're right, they want to get that invoice just pushed through, especially the independents, but they want it closed. It's in, get it out, it's done. They get very graded on that, if you will. And so we kind of have to educate them as to why is taking a few more days to dry versus rip out and just replace maybe better, because we can help educate them to the fact that in the end they're going to have happier clients. We just talked about for the last 20 minutes or so about the less stress that will be on these clients because they're not getting their walls ripped out and their carpet ripped up, which makes their home honestly more of a mess for them to deal with. I don't care if it's quicker for the adjuster's timeline or not. And they don't have as many contents that they have to go out and buy and replace and hassle. So I think education will help us with this kind of pushback, Whitney, education to the adjusters. And it's really been something that I've really been, it's been on my radar that I really like to be able to push that in the continuing education, especially when it comes to content side of things. But
Yeah.
I think that would help us.
The CEU and the outreach program is going to be huge.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
going to be the only way that we're going to be able to keep people essentially up to date with the science and
Mhm.
technology that we're doing. I mean, you
Yes.
professors that are running around with 10-year-old technology and science and their books and processes and
Mhm.
policies are built off of 10-year-old knowledge base or boards that
Right.
board members that have decided these things from years
Mhm.
of past history. They're not keeping up with the times.
Mhm.
We have to be the specialists that essentially hold not only our industry accountable, but those surrounding our industry.
Right.
We have to educate the homeowners. We need to
Mhm.
educate the carriers, the adjusters.
Yep.
Every single time that I meet with an adjuster, it's an opportunity for me to educate them on why I do the things that I do. And every single time that I meet with an adjuster, they leave saying, "Man, I've never seen anybody do things that way."
Mhm.
You really brought some light to the day, and I'm just like, "Wow, yeah." not really special. I'm surprised you haven't seen this. How long have you been doing this? Oh, 6 months. And then I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
No wonder you haven't seen anybody do this way, because I was like, this isn't special. This is
Mhm.
definitely not special. Because a lot of the things that we do is not much of what we do is really that crazy. It's just taking the time to do it, because a lot of it is time consuming. Setting up
Mhm.
containments properly, time consuming. Setting up a floor drying setup and assembly, time consuming.
Mhm.
Extracting water from hardwood floors and subsurfaces, time consuming. All these things are very, very time consuming. 100%. So what was it? One of the guys was asking earlier. I don't know why I can't scroll through these things here, but regardless, one of the guys earlier was asking why we would do services that don't make us as much money. And to me, I have different businesses, having 5 different companies at this point in time. Every single business has a different margin. Every single service that I offer has a different margin. Every single cost of every single thing is different. There's a different margin on literally every material across the board. There are acceptable margins and unacceptable margins for each individual industry. Some industries run off really small margins. I mean, your large corporations run off 3, 4, 5% margins.
Mhm.
Your smaller businesses will run off of 30, 40, 50, 60% margins. Some individual, trunk slammer guys will run with a 200, 300% profit margin because their overhead just doesn't touch anybody else's in the industry, but yet they're charging the same prices. Kind of the
Right.
handyman versus contractor idea that I had. So the reason why we choose to do things that are less profitable than other things is because at the end of the day, like we were talking about earlier,
Mhm.
we're utilizing our assets, whether it be equipment, manpower,
Mhm.
supplies, so on and so forth. We're using
Mhm.
all those things in order to help our customers to the fullest extent. Why would I want to see somebody else make the money? I might be making less of a margin, but you're not making that margin at all because you're not doing the work, is the way I look
Right.
at it. So for the guys that aren't doing construction because it's a lower margin, I say, okay, well, you're literally leaving all of the money on the table, whereas I'm only leaving some of the money on the table. Or maybe I'm not leaving any money on the table as far as I'm concerned. So it's really just all about perspective. And I think when you talk about business, there's business on a smaller scale, and then as you try to evolve your company and try to expand it outside of 5 or 10
Mhm.
employees, things like that, and you try to diversify or interdiversify, as I have. I mean, we started with a restoration company. We did always did full service turnkey.
Mhm.
A lot of people were asking us about remodels, so we said, okay, let's
Mhm.
just do that. People started saying, well, why are you doing remodel, or why are you doing mold work over here? Well, we're not, we're just doing remodels. So we had to brand our companies differently, so that in
Right.
the high-end neighborhoods that we were doing kitchen, bathroom additions, whatever, they were looking at RFI versus Restore Force, because the neighbors didn't want the stigma of somebody doing mold work on their house.
Right.
So we, not by choice, kind of just by the luck of the draw, had to diversify our company in that sense. So we created the construction division. With that, we couldn't find smart home companies to take care of our customers. So we started a smart home company. We do estate
Mhm.
management because of the fact that we had customers that asked us if we would do preventative service for their property. So we created a preventative property management program. Think about that, guys. We clean up water damage. How much money do you think you can make preventing water damage on people's property? Checking supply lines, checking toilets, checking float switches, checking all these things. Any house that's over $5 million, I can almost guarantee you that they will pay you a small amount of money to a large amount of money in order to make sure that their investment is not needing your services as a restoration contractor. So there's some free advice for you on how to maybe jump into something a little bit differently. And this is
Mhm.
how I look at now number 6. After we've done that, then we got into carpet and tile and specialty rug cleaning. Well, with that goes contents. Rugs and contents kind of go hand in hand, so we're doing them together. So for me, the contents is the cherry on the cake, But if we'd have done it all in house, it would have been, oh,
Yep.
okay, no problem. Let's just do it. Yeah.
And Whitney, you would have kept a lot more profit in your pocket because contents are very high profit.
We're doing a
So
lot of,
good,
we're doing
good.
all the, I'm just not doing the drapes and blinds.
Mm. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. I just, not,
Okay. Good to hear that.
yeah. We're doing all the artwork. We're doing all of the hard surface cleaning, all of the
Good.
contents and all the books. He's got like his office is like a big history thing. So,
Nice.
and I mean, this is actually a perfect job to talk about. One of the protocols recommended that they throw away everything that was affected. This guy was literally throwing away books that I'm imagining are worth hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars. And he's like, what are you telling me? I don't have to throw these away? I'm like, listen, let me attempt to clean them for a small fraction of the cost as it would be to replace them. Don't just throw
Right.
them away. And she's like, oh, well, we didn't throw them away. We donated them. I'm like, why'd you know?
Right.
Why'd you donate them?
Oh,
It's just, it's its own
yeah.
little comedy and its own thing. But, at
Mm.
the end of the day, there's so many opportunities to better serve your customer and to make your
Mhm.
company
Mhm.
stand out against the competition. And these are the ways that you can do it, like, hands down.
And that was a really good question that he asked you. Sometimes you might do a smaller profit margin service if it better serves your client or your customer as a whole. Like you were talking about, it's obviously nice that somebody can come to one place, kind of like have a whole meal deal, right? But you definitely shouldn't be doing something that you're losing money at. I don't care what it is that you're doing. I mean, if you are, I mean, one, you should definitely know what your profit margins are in every aspect, in every area of your restoration business. And if you have something where you are not doing decent profit margins, one, look at do you need some more knowledge there? Do you need better SOPs in that area? Do you need to get some skill or better people running that division of your business? I'm not sure what that is, but maybe you need someone else doing that. Maybe it's your productivity is a problem, but you definitely shouldn't be in business doing something if you're, I mean, obviously we want to do the higher profit things, right? And make the highest profit margin in our business that we can. However, sometimes you offer things that aren't so much as high a profit margin as something else because you're wanting to serve your client better. So I think that's kind of interesting that he asked that question. And I think that is definitely something that you would maybe want to think about as well.
Yeah, 100%. It was actually Christopher Pratt who had asked
Oh,
that.
okay.
The second part of his question was, do you strictly go off Xactimate prices or do you create custom bids? And I think I'll leave that for you as far as the contents are concerned, because you do more contents than me, obviously, at this point. On the last jobs that I've done, I did
Mhm.
custom bids, but I'm going to guess that you probably run a lot of Xactimate.
It's kind of funny. I do some. I do. I build my contents very differently than a lot of people, and I know it raises a lot of eyebrows, but I'm here to tell you I have some very nice profit margins, and I'm very happy with it. I do my own thing, and then I go off Xactimate. It depends on what I'm doing. So I know some people are like, okay, do you build by the box? Do you build by the item? Or do you build by the hour? I actually do all three. And when I say that to people, they're like, huh? Like you can't have your cake and eat it too. Well, yes, I can, because that's how I bill it. So what I've done is, like for instance, if I've got grandma's china set, I bill by the value of the item. If grandma's china set is from the 1950s and it's valued at $2,000, I'm charging $250 to touch it. If I have to clean it, I mean, if I just have to
the risk of the liability of having to
absolutely,
you
right?
replace one piece, you have to replace the whole set.
Or if you can replace one piece, and replacing the whole set's probably not an option. Okay. One time to move a table that actually had a rider on it, it was $18,000. It was a table put together with wooden, oh God, what were they? I don't know. If my husband was here, he could tell you. There was no screws in this table. It was made by some famous guy back east. And it was made with wooden peg things that were the nails.
Yeah, the
I don't know.
dowels.
Oh, it was insane. And
And
this
it's
thing
all
was in a
sanded, so you can see the round.
Oh yeah, I mean
Yeah.
crazy, right? Okay, the rider was for $18,000 and the table was valued at 21, but of course they would only give him 18,000 for it. But it's irreplaceable, so they wanted me to refinish it. I said no way, Jose, because I was not that specialized in wood, and I wouldn't to this day have done it. I'm not a sander restorer to that extent. they wanted me, but then they wanted me to move it so they could ship it to Seattle to this guy that was going to fix it for $6,000. And I
Yeah,
said,
if in the future, if you ever get stuff like that, let us know because we'll do the
I
wood.
will. Okay, I will. So I'm like, you know what? Just to touch this thing, it's 10% of the value.
Yeah,
I I mean,
100%.
I mean, just to
John
move it.
Carter actually taught me the greatest value and understanding the value of what you're working on. I think he was
Yes.
telling me and this is a story, and I don't want to steal your story, John Carter. If you're watching this, I'm sorry, but he was talking about how he did a rug. I'm not going to go into the whole story because I don't want to give away his thing. Regardless, 2 stories in an office building that had the same carpet. It was brand
Mm-hmm.
new. A maid
Mm-hmm.
came, screwed up the carpet. Bleach drops all around the office. Wasn't supposed to use bleach in the bathroom, but she did. The mop
Mm-hmm.
dripped. Anyways, the cost to replace the whole carpet would have been like 60 something $1,000 or something.
Right.
Maybe it was even more, like a couple $100,000 because it was 2 floors in the office, moving all the furniture, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, what I do know is he made $30,000. He worked for a week during lunches and essentially knocked out all the work.
Yeah.
And his bill is priced based off of the value of what it would have been to replace these things. And you have to, as a restorer, look at things that way.
Yes.
It's
So
not based off of Exactimate because Exactimate doesn't look at
no,
the table from 1902 the same way that it does from,
from 1982. Right.
from
Right.
your
But
yard down the street.
right. So I literally charge $1,800 to just pack this thing up and move it to my warehouse. They send a specialty shipping company then to pick it up from there and then go take it to the restorer. And the adjuster was like, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "No, I'm not." He said, "That's a lot of money." I said, "Well, then you need to come move the table." Because if I'm moving an $18,000 table, I'm taking liability. He was like, but did I mention this was in January, 4 feet of snow, icy 4-wheel drive, only roads? Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
having to drive this table. Yeah. So on this particular job, I did specialty billing. I did Exactimate billing, which, by the way, the majority of what I do on a content job, I do by the hour for my general cleaning. I do not do by the box or by the item. But I also had specific items that I charged individually for, which I make up my own pricing for. I do not go off of Exactimate because Exactimate doesn't have those pricings in them. So I actually do both. To answer his question, I go off of Exactimate and I create my own. And I promise you, in, well, almost 18 years now, I have very few, I've never had an adjuster refuse to pay me anything. I've had them maybe not be real happy about a couple of things, but once I explain to them, like the table and such, I've never had a problem getting paid like that. So I kind of do the best of both worlds, if you will, because I don't believe on content you can strictly go off of Exactimate and do it correctly, in my opinion, when you weigh your liability, when you have specialty items.
Yeah, you
And
can't.
that special, right, and that specialty item may not be that it's an $18,000 table, but what if that table was made by his grandfather with those wooden dowels?
Some things are priceless. I mean,
Exactly.
you can't put a
Yes.
value on things, and
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's not our job to put
Yeah.
a value on things as far as what it really is. It's our job to
Right.
put a value on what our services are going to be to restore.
Exactly. Exactly, Whitney. That's
If you,
huge.
at the end of
No,
the
no, no.
day, you need to make sure that you're
Yeah.
pricing it right. And I'll be honest, when I'm bidding most of my work, not bidding, but when I'm billing for most of my work, I should say, I use my price list as far as time and materials hourly.
Mm-hmm.
And then I use some Exactimate line items that fit for the areas where my time and materials doesn't really fit. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not to take advantage of the system or take advantage
Mm-mm.
of the billing process. It's to make
Right.
sure that the time, materials, and the efforts that we put into our customers' products and materials are covered because every single thing is different. Every book is different. It all has a different width,
And and
thickness,
I
different
and I
pages.
think it's important to mention that your responsibility or liability is covered too. That
100%.
you need to really take into account. So I do both.
Liability is one of the biggest things that I think that is not taught enough, and not
Mm-hmm.
focused on enough throughout the lessons that people teach. I understand the science of what we do is so important, but
Mm-hmm.
what is more important is not being a pig-headed scientist and essentially putting your entire livelihood in jeopardy based off of thinking that you know science better than anybody else when
Mm-hmm.
take off the baseboards or do this or do that just because you don't have to prove anything to anybody. Make sure you're safe. Liability. You need to make sure your liability is protected at all costs, no matter what you're doing. Just play it safe, guys. It's not worth it at the end of the
Yeah.
day. Just want to give a couple shout outs to the guys that are up here. Chuck Duche from down in Louisiana, Jeremy Hettinger, Christopher Pratt, who had that last question, Joseph Bianca Bocino, who we talked to a little bit ago. He was the one with the question 4 to 5 days needed.
Mm.
Christopher Pratt basically brought up again that subfloor and structure still need proper drying, plenty of money to be left on the table. And that's very true. A lot of people aren't drying the structure properly as well as aren't drying the subfloors properly. The subfloors more so than anything, depending on what's being put on there afterwards and if it's going to be sealed or covered up immediately. You got to definitely make sure you pay a little bit more attention to it because these materials reach their equilibriums and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they will bounce back on you. Billy Hofstad's, just to say, your first question, we had the same problem here. It's been a lot of slow process, but it's actually coming out ahead of the restore. John Mathis, here's another question. What is the best marketing program for contents?
Um, well,
I don't know. I
well,
don't believe
so okay, so how about if I share with you, John? By the way, hi. What I'm going to share with you, I guess, is what I would say is, well, it's going to sound totally self-serving, but it's the marketing program that we do. But what I'm going to share with you is the best way to market your contents. And I will absolutely say this until I'm blue in the face. I am all about you are only as good as your last job. And when you are dealing with someone's contents, I mean, I think we all definitely agree and understand it is very different than dealing with someone's walls and carpeting and their appliances in their kitchen. So, think about it right now, John. If you were going to just let someone come into your house, handle all your personal belongings, I mean, everything from maybe the tux you wore at your wedding that hangs in the closet, to your nightstand drawer, to your razor in the bathroom, to your children's toys, like, it's a very personal thing. So don't you want to have some kind of already knowledge about that company or that person that's going to come and handle those things? Not only know that they're going to do a good job, but they're going to do it discreetly, they're going to do it right, and they're going to take care of you and put your interests first. And I believe that the best way that a client can know that is from hearing from your last client or your last 10 clients. And I believe the best way that you can market your contents restoration company is through video testimonial from your clients. I believe that very strongly, you guys. If if any of you have seen my YouTube channel, you see I have video all over the place with my clients on the Mobile Clean YouTube. It's tremendously impactful, not only for adjusters or agents who may refer your company to hear how the people think about you and feel about you, but to your current clients. And I think it's one of the biggest things that I don't see a lot of restoration contractors, which I do feel is still, that's also very huge for restoration, but I see very few contents people doing this. I see very few of them using and leveraging on social media their video testimonials, because video is so powerful. And I don't just mean have your clients go do a Google review or have your clients go on Yelp. That is leaving too much up to, number one, chance, and the other is it's still on someone else's site, right? So if you have a contents restoration company, you should have a Facebook page, you should have an Instagram, you should definitely have a YouTube, and you should have video up there of how you're caring for your clients and showing off your expertise. And I really believe very strongly that that is the most important thing you can do when marketing your contents company.
That's a really good one. And I mean, I've been talking to a lot of people lately because I am not a marketing person. I put that out there, you know, when I do consulting, the one thing I don't do is teach you how to sell. Granted, I sell myself on jobs. The only thing I can give people advice is make sure you know how to, treat people well and do a good job. And it's pretty much basically goes back down to what you said
Mm-hmm.
is can't do a good job, then you shouldn't be out there doing it. And you got to get these video testimonials. I mean, one of the things that I tell customers is kind of a joke, but at the same time, it's true. And it's the way that the world works is if I do a bad job, write a bad review so that I know that I shouldn't be in the business. If I do a good job, well, maybe, hopefully you'll leave me at least one job. My job is to do a good job. So that's the bare minimum. For me, the value in what I bring is in all these other secondary services, so on and so forth. So I look at things a little bit differently than a lot of people do business wise. I think that it's definitely more of a long-term plan. I'm not looking to sell my business in any short amount of time. I mean, some people build
Mhm.
their businesses just to basically put a model together and sell it, put a
Mhm.
price tag on it and sell it. It's what some people do. I love this industry and I'm here to do things
Right.
properly. And I think that by going through these steps, taking square one and going and getting educated,
Mhm.
next step is furthering your education through areas like the RIA CR program. I mean, from what I
Mhm.
understand, the CR program is a really heavy contents related program.
It is.
Um, and it's very much so focused on a lot of the different building materials and the construction types
Mhm.
and the different ways that you're going to deal with different structures in different areas based off of what you
Mhm.
may do. So
Mhm.
the
Eh,
classes are out there. Some of
mhm.
them are maybe harder to have access to than others, but at the same time, they're available. We're working really hard on daily to try to get everybody together so that we can have these classes in different areas so that they're not just at certain
Mhm.
events, so on and so forth.
Mhm.
When it comes to the
Mhm.
RIA, we're working with the IICRC to do a couple other things, but the
And
big thing.
it's important, Winnie, when you have these education classes too, not unlike the video testimonials that you get from your clients so that potentially new clients can hear how amazing you are. It's also important, and I'll tell you this, John, in partial answer to your question on contents. If you've had specialty training in contents, do you let your clients know that? Do they understand the certifications that you have? And not just the certifications, because if you walk in and go, hey, I'm John, and I want to clean your contents, and I'm certified by RIA, IICRC, CR. You see all these letters, and they're going to go, excuse me, because the average person doesn't understand what those are. Educate them and tell them that. So does your social media and or your website state the certifications you have for contents? Does it talk about, right? I mean,
It's so,
does it,
I mean, getting the information
yes.
out on YouTube videos and all these places where people can see this
Hmm.
stuff without you basically pitching it to them is huge, because
Huge.
the more education I got, the harder it was for me to tell people my
Mhm.
experience without them looking at me like a cocky, arrogant guy. And I'm just like, well,
But when you deliver it as information and education to them, then it's not
can't just be here
selling.
are my certifications. Here's this. It's
Yes.
don't mention your certifications. Don't mention your qualifications. Go through the project with them and educate them on every aspect of everything. To whereas you just literally blow the tops of their heads off and they're just like, wow, mind blown. I did not understand that
Right.
you could actually physically understand that much about what's in my house. And being the best of the best of the best in what you do and being able to
Mhm.
provide your customers and being able to educate them, back to what we're talking about, being able to
Yes.
educate them on every aspect. Oh yeah, I understand what they're talking about. They want to fill these holes to make sure that the rodents can't get in your house. It doesn't matter what you are doing. Make yourself the
Mhm.
best at
Yeah.
what you do at all times. Don't know if people consider me to be an expert. I don't think that you can stamp yourself to be an expert. I don't think that you can call yourself an expert. I'd like to say that I have a pretty good grasp on the industry that we're a part of. I'd like to say that I have a pretty good understanding of the concepts that are in place as far as restorative drying, motor mediation, and some of the basics in place for contents, which I hope to learn a lot more about with you in your class when down in Florida, which I can't wait to do a video together. That'll
I
be cool.
know.
We're
I
going to
know.
be able
That'd
to
be
do
cool.
one of those on the beach down over on the West Coast.
Yes, that'd be great.
That'll be exciting because I don't get too many people to share my studio with. You know,
Nice.
we gotta get somebody in the clown car one of these days. Maybe I'll hire a midget or something.
There you go.
Be a little PC. I don't know if it's the right word for a person. But anyways,
So
it's
Whitney, I want to say this
yeah, yeah.
because I want to just kind of input when you said that about expert. So I have a little different viewpoint. So that's what I love about you and I is that we can kind of share that, right? I kind of shake it up. But I do believe there can be experts. And if you know what the definition, someone amazing, one of my mentors told me this, and it was just awesome. He says, what the difference between an expert and a non-expert is the expert that like two people in a room, and the non-expert or the expert is a person that knows more than the non-expert. So in other words, Whitney, if you came in to your client's house and you're talking to them
You're always
about
the expert. We're all the experts in that.
exactly. So you can't, and you are, Whitney, you are an expert. You can absolutely call yourself that. It's not an arrogant statement. It's a statement of confidence. And they are a lot, there's a lot of experts sitting probably on this Facebook Live with us right now. So it's not an ego thing. It's not saying I'm better than Whitney, I'm better than John, or I'm better than Annissa. No, it's just that, claim that status. Because look, if you're going to go into someone's house and you're going to walk in, you want to deal with their contents, you better, if you're coming into my house, deal with my contents, which I'd feel bad for you because that would be a sad situation. But anyway, if you were coming to my house dealing with my contents, you better claim yourself as an expert. Otherwise, I'd tell you to go right back out my door, because I would only want an expert to come in. If I had a mole job in my house, I would only want someone that claims to be an expert. Now, you better be able to back it up in that you should be able to educate me. You should be able to demonstrate your knowledge, your expertise, and your skill, right? So I think sometimes when people call that, when people look at the term of someone saying they're an expert,
right. It just has to be used in the right context.
Exactly. I agree with you, Whitney. Totally.
I will probably never call myself, put it this way. I'm never going to put myself as an expert over anybody in the industry, because I'll put it, I consider it this is I'm 32.
Uh-huh.
I don't care if people know my age. I'm younger. I hope to be in the industry for another.
Okay, well, I'm not telling you my age.
40, 50, who knows, however long. But there's a lot of individuals who I think have done a lot more for the industry than I have, and who also I think I consider to be the experts. And I think that everybody is always looking up to somebody. And I will never consider myself an expert in the sense that they are. And I can only hope to be as good as these individuals, guys like.
But Whitney, that there are people, I get what you're saying, but there are people right now watching this that have maybe only been in the industry 3 or 4 years, and you are an expert to them. They look to you. They're looking to you for advice and knowledge, right? So you are an expert, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And I'm very humble in that fact. If anybody does consider me, those who, I would just hate to be a self-proclaimed expert. I will never stamp myself to be an expert. Anybody who wants to give me a shirt or, pat me on the back, definitely not going to shoo you away by any means, because it's humbling to hear these things. And at the end of the day, this is what we work so hard to be. And hopefully everybody who has a passion for the industry can put in as much energy to better themselves as not myself, but individuals like myself, guys like Luke Spence, James Taylor, regardless of how I feel about the guy, Ken Larson, I don't like him, but at the end of the day, he's a huge impact to where our industry was to where it is today. And he played a huge part in it in the past. And, there's individuals that are still playing parts today. It's just everybody has to realize their place in this whole ecosystem, I think. And I think that it would be really good if everybody, because there's a lot of self-proclaimed experts, and who most of which deserve to be, some of which don't. But I think if everybody can stop stamping themselves as expert and just be willing to help your fellow, contractor, we'll get so much farther. I mean, I would not be in the position I am today to be able to give advice to anybody if somebody hadn't given it to me at one point in my life. So I was the guy going in, and I was talking to Luke about this the other day. I first learned vortex drying. I didn't know who Chuck Dewald was. I had no clue. My boss goes, "You got to do the vortex. You got to do the vortex. You make the air spin. It goes up the air, pulls the moisture out of the air. It pulls the air out of the machine and goes into the bucket. Put the bleach in the bucket, and it's just like that was our big joke. It's bleach in the bucket. I think we definitely need to make sure there's probably a few people who understand that. But at the end of the day, I learned about vortex from a guy who might have learned from other people who learned from Chuck. But that's what I learned first. It wasn't IICRC stuff. But it's applying all the different sciences that I've learned together. It's not one person's right or one person's wrong. Jeremy Reitz has a different outlook on certain aspects of drying than Dewald does. And it's not to say either of them are wrong. It's actually some of the topics are really cool to get into. And when you get into it, it's really the deep stuff, whereas you're talking about pulling multiple, microscopic grains out of, differences and just differences. But there are differences. And this is what's healthy. Being able to bring, a perfect example was bringing those guys together at the experience at our event. It was amazing having them sit in a panel and the two of them talk together, because although their opinion on a few small things differs,
Mhm.
Their opinion on the vast majority of things are the same.
Right.
The problem is we tend to focus on the differences that we all have more so than the commonalities that we have. And I think that we all need to maybe focus on a lot of commonalities more
Mhm.
so than the differences, and figure out how we can bridge the commonalities together in a way that, whereas we may not have as many differences,
Yeah.
you know, and it's just value other people's opinions. There's so much amazing information in our industry right now. There's
Yeah.
so many people who are literally pushing our industry to the next level. And
Mhm.
I see the next 5 to 10 years of what we're doing, not just with us, but with every organization that's actually doing something, with every group that's physically doing something
Mhm.
for the real reasons. It's going to be an amazing next couple of years, because the science that is available to the people that aren't even out to market yet is just jaw dropping. And I mean, it's nothing crazy, 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 but for
Right.
us as restorers, it's super crazy. You
Mhm.
tell somebody out on the street, they're not going to care. But for us as restorers who, we get really excited about this stuff, this is the kind of thing that is really going to get people excited. And I'm hoping that more people can jump onto the bandwagon, if you will, and
Mhm.
really embrace this whole thing that we're doing, the movement of Are You a Restorer? I really, really, really
I
think
agree.
that it will possibly be what maybe doesn't save our industry, but helps bring each other up.
Right. I like that.
Other
You know,
than
I like that a lot, Whitney, the way you said that, because I know it's been said, I've heard it recently about, saving the industry or changing it to save it. I've heard that term, and I don't really care for that term, or that, to be honest with you, because I don't think this industry needs saving. I think this industry is amazing, full of some absolutely freaking amazing people like you just talked about. And we don't need saving, but we are evolving. And everything changes, right? As it grows, it changes. And that's what we're doing right now in this industry. I believe that we're growing, and we're going through a little bit of growing pains. And I think there will be a big evolution that's going to happen in the next 2 to 4 years, is what I really feel. It happened about 3 years ago. We had a huge evolution in this industry, and especially when it came to the content side of things. But we had a big change in drying. We had a lot go on in the insurance industry itself. How we bill, how we were getting paid changed. But I don't think this industry needs saving. I think this industry is amazing just like it is. We just need to be sure that we're adapting, that we're growing, and that we're, as you said, bringing everybody up at the same time. And I think part of that change, Whitney, is that, like you said, the trunk slammers, you can no longer do that. You can't just run out there and go buy 2 fans and a dehue and go, I'm going to grab a crowbar and figure it out. You can't do that anymore. And I'm glad, because that means our industry's risen. And so as we pull up together as a group and say, we're only going to accept this standard, like this is a minimum, but what we really want is this standard, but this is the minimum, which is way higher than what it's been in the past, Whitney, way higher. The
100%.
minimum is. That
100%.
brings us all up. We all rise together. And I really believe that.
And it's not about calling out the black sheep. It's
No, no.
helping them to
Yeah,
not be the black sheep.
exactly.
If we sit here and we attack those people who are just the proverbial shitheads in our
Right.
industry, um, I'm never one. Sorry.
That's
Um,
okay. I was being nice, but okay.
yeah. Essentially, if we don't help them, and if we can't
Exactly.
call them out, though, we can't just be like, these guys suck and they're horrible and don't use them. It's literally the day that we get to your average restoration contractor going down the street, knocking on your other contractor's door and saying, hey, I noticed that you needed some help.
Mhm.
I'd love to give you a hand. Because the fact of the matter is, every single one of us that are restorers lives in a house. And if you think about how many people aren't restorers that live in houses, and who aren't restorers who shop in stores, and every place that you go on a daily basis, you're walking in and out of every single building. there are plenty of buildings that are having damage done to them on a daily basis.
Mhm.
And if we work together,
Mhm.
obviously we're not going to have everybody working together. And there's always
No.
going to be your black sheep and there's always going to be your shitheads. But the farther we separate ourselves from the shitheads, the better our industry will be.
Right.
And the more recognition the true restorers, myself included, and these people like yourself and people who truly care about the industry and people who are looking to excel and to
Mhm.
help and create that better customer environment and that experience, people who are restorers are really going to separate ourselves, and essentially we're going to create our own little industry of restorers, and those guys will die off. They will. I'm extremely excited and optimistic about how this ideal of just being a restorer and
Mhm.
that symbol that you can be proud of, something that you can really hold yourself accountable to be the little thing, or just a word. Really, it's just a word, but it's a
Mhm.
word that means so much to some of us that if we can
Yeah.
actually hold on to it, I think that it's something that could really push us forward. Something so small as a word.
Right.
And the word that means so much, that goes with an attitude, it goes with emotion, that goes with the actual feelings that are incorporated. I know you're passionate about the industry.
Yeah.
You know, I'm extremely passionate about the industry. I put myself out there probably way too much more than I should
Mhm.
and express my honest opinions without filter way more than I should. But I do it all with the best intent
Mhm.
and meaning to only look out for those in the industry who truly care, because I know I'm not alone. And I know there's a lot of individuals who truly care about this industry, not for personal gain, but because of the fact that they love what they do. Like literally,
Mhm.
it's because of the fact
Mhm.
that you love what you do. And it's not about the money that's attached to it. That's a big bonus and that's a big perk.
Right.
But to truly love what we do, I think
Mhm.
that separates a lot of us from each other. And we don't all have to love it the same way. Not all of us are going to truly love what we do, but if you could try to essentially push at least some sort of an emotional attachment and some sort of a passion for what it
Yeah.
is that's putting the food on your plate, love or no love, put that
Mhm.
same action out there so that your customer or client gets that level of service.
Mhm.
It's a win-win. And this has been an awesome one. I
I
think
know. This is great.
prepared, because every time we're prepared, we have a great episode.
Right?
Last week was just like shuffleboard madness. So I think we're ready to roll and we know what to do here. This was a
Yeah.
great one. We had lots of people that we actually, I remembered to share the video online this time. So people were actually able to watch us.
Oh,
They
good.
watched us. A lot of people that interacted.
And thank you guys, every one of you for your questions, because that's really great. Because Whitney are doing this for you guys. I mean, I wouldn't mind talking to Whitney every week, but we're not just doing it to talk to each other. We're doing it for you guys, and we want to answer
Yeah.
your questions. So I want to thank you very much for giving us a little bit to talk about.
Yeah, if we didn't have you guys watching these things, if we didn't have you guys involved, if we didn't have you guys posting on these comments, I mean, imagine where I'd be today if I was basically posting all these videos and no interaction whatsoever. I'd be one weird, strange, quirky individual that was just determined to never give up, no matter what people thought of him. That is
Mm.
me, but at the same time, it's nice to see that we have such a following, so many people that are
Mhm.
behind the industry, that are truly behind just trying to fix
Yeah.
not the industry as a whole, but fix the things that are wrong with the industry. I mean,
Mhm.
we're the way I
Make
look at
some
it,
adjustments, right?
we're a BMW. We're a great, I'd say like, a 1989 7 series, maybe a 5 series,
Oh,
M
nice.
series. Just needs an
Mhm.
oil change, maybe a little balance on the rear left tire, maybe rotate us a little bit, some new brakes. And I think
Right.
we're going to be good and golden. We can do another 200, 300,000 miles on the
Yeah.
racetrack. So,
There you go.
with that being said, guys, I really appreciate everybody who has essentially paid attention. John Mathis, I appreciate you getting on here tonight. There's a lot of other people that I would love to thank, that have kind of joined us. I mean, Dave Meyer jumped in here for a little bit. John
Mhm.
Woods, Shayna Dozer. I said your name wrong, I'm sure, but that doesn't matter because I suck at seeing things at night. I'm blind. James Merritt, Scott Tarpley, my man, the man, the myth, the legend. Can't wait to see you in a month and a half down at the classroom. He's going to be breaking in the classroom for the first time. So if you guys want to learn some large loss stuff, come hang out with me down at my classroom. I will be there. You can see our new facility. Joseph, we need to do dinner soon and drink that bottle you brought me. I haven't cracked it open. I'm not doing it without you. So anyways, guys, thank you for joining us and making what we do worthwhile. Thank you for giving us a reason to actually get on here and talk. Obviously, God knows I love to talk, and I love doing it in front of people. So might as well do it with just reason and just cause. So Norp Nation, I just want to say thank you all for being a huge support in what I have been doing for the last year. This is about the industry. It's not about me whatsoever. So let's just keep crushing it and achieving our goals. Annissa, thank you so much for being a part of this series with me. I look forward to so many more things that we're going to be doing together.
Thank you, Whitney.
Absolutely amazing what we're going to be able to achieve in the next year or two with all these different videos, podcasts, so on and so forth. Everybody else, literally, we're blessed to have you guys being a part of what we're doing. Truly are. So without further ado, it is 10:18. I am going to go get a shower. I'm going to relax, spend some time with my wife, rub my baby boy in her belly. Can't wait to meet him in a little bit. So hope everybody has an amazing night. Thank you again for your questions. Annissa, thank you so much again. And make sure you check out Anissa's YouTube channel. And I'm sure, let's do this right. Annissa? Whitney. So in the future, there will be links there, but this is a live video, so we don't have that stuff up. Anyways, guys, take care. Have a great night. Love you guys. Talk to you later.
Bye.